So in that year, in the monthly series, we discussed everything from education to finance to land reform, everything. And then post the 90th anniversary, our decision was to hold Achimota Speaks twice every year. Typically the first one around Founders Day, which is in March, and the second one around our Speech Day, which is in November. And of the two, because Achimota is first an educational institution, we decided to dedicate the first one every year to topics education, and for the second one to choose what is most topical for our country at that time. When the committee sat to deliberate on what to discuss for the second part of this year, it almost felt like a no-brainer. Because Galamsey, ladies and gentlemen, and the impact of illegal mining affects all of us. It cuts across generations, it affects our environment, it affects our economy, and it affects the health of our people. So this forum represents a crucial opportunity to come together, share insights, and explore solutions. Now, Galamsey has both immediate term and long-term effects. We've heard about stories of babies who are born with deformities linked to toxic contaminants in these very waters and in the farmlands that supply our food. Recently, the Ghana Water Company issued an alarming warning. If the destruction of our water bodies continues at its current rate, they may soon be unable to provide safe drinking water. These, of course, will impact not just this generation, but generations to come. So it is indeed an existential threat that needs to be addressed. Unfortunately, like most things in our beloved country, Ghana, we tend to politicize everything. Our plea tonight is that all of us, we have elections in a month, barely. And as is our right, each of us will walk into a polling booth that day and cast a vote for somebody or the other. That's fine. But today in this conversation, let's kindly park all our political leanings, interests, and let's please think about Ghana, the country that belongs to all of us, from Gambaga to Accra, from Yosu to Keta, and from whichever end you belong to. Actually, I think there are about 25 parties now, so some of them don't start with N. So, but whichever political party you belong to, ultimately, there's only one Ghana. And that's the spirit with which Achimota Speaks presents and discusses every topic. So, wherever you've come from, whether you come to this as an interested Ghanaian, a miner, a chief, an environmentalist, let's together jaw today and come up with a position that all of us as a country can support. The topic for today, as has been mentioned, is Ghana's death by Galamsey. Who will bear the cut? And I'm confident that our eminent keynote speaker and panelists would at least guide us in a direction where, together with your comments and contributions that come, we can align, if nothing at all, on a path forward. So it's my privilege, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce our keynote speaker for today. Our keynote speaker holds a PhD in Human Environmental Sciences from King's College, London, and a BSc and Master's degrees in Zoology from the University of Ghana, Legon. Before he went into Legon, he attended the only school, Before becoming an Achimotan, a Legonite, he was a proud product of Achimota School. He's an environmental scientist with interest in climate change adaptation, environmental degradation, and biodiversity loss. He is the founding director of the Institute for Environmental and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana. He is the Ghana Strategic Advisor for the Climate Development Knowledge Network, CDKN, and an advisory board member for the UNU Institute for Natural Resources in Africa. He has over 170 publications in journals, book chapters, and reports. He is a proud winner of the Parker Gentry Award for Conservation Biology from the Field Museum, Chicago, USA. He is also the recipient of the Order of the Volta from the Government of Ghana for services in development, education, and research. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to introduce and welcome our keynote speaker, Accra Professor Chris Gordon. Thank you very much.
Well, I must say I'm very proud and privileged to be here. I spent 7 years at Achimota in the House of Gentlemen, which is Livingston House. Is that one working? Okay, let me use this one. So, gentlemen, please, can you switch this off so I don't get feedback? Okay. And it's very interesting because I've been working in this area for the past 2 decades, and I don't see much hope. But my prayer is that at the end of this, we will get some understanding of at least the direction to which we should proceed. Now, this should work, yes. So, I was given a mandate in the invitation letter. 4 points. Explore effective regulatory frameworks, how to involve local communities, highlight the role of influential figures, and how concerted effort can come together to stop the rampage. I have added what you see in red, or cannot. The question I then faced is, what can I say that has not been said repeatedly over the past 100 years? Because when you go into the literature, we have been talking about this problem since 1909. And there are reasons why we have not moved forward on this. In my title slide, I added an asterisk, death. But is it suicide? Because effectively, it is self-harm. Nobody is forcing us to do this. We are doing it to ourselves. So I have an outline here. Originally, it was going up to 11 points, but I said no. So the first is, what does it mean to build a cat? then I realized the issue is really about values and honor. And we've talked just now, our president has talked about how politics has entered everything. I was once interviewed briefly on City, and I don't know, what is Ben's title? Is he the station manager or, well, anyway, he asked me to give Galamsey 101, i.e. the basics of Galamsey. What does it mean? I've also talked about the cascading impact on local communities, because it is not just the immediate, and again, this has been alluded to. I have section 6, the solution is in Ghana, and I will explain that further, and then I have some takeaway messages. Now you see from the image in front of you, a number of women deeply in a pit. Actually, is it possible to get the house lights at this side off? Controller, he's busy talking. Anyway, we'll continue. Because the fact is that by immersing yourself, can we dim the lights at this side? That's too disco. Okay. Well, in my days, if we went to cinema and you did the lights like that, nobody watched the film. But I know the young boys and girls of today are very disciplined. So why I say contraception by Galamsey is that we know that the chemicals affects the reproductive system. And if you're a woman, and these are all ladies, in this water, contaminated, exposed for 8-10 hours a day, what is going to happen? And I'll go into that in greater detail. Now, there's some principles that I use to underpin the presentation. The first is that people cannot change what they do not see. The second is people will not change what they do not value. The third is science is not truth. It is an approach to seeking truth. Objective truths are apolitical. Again, this has been alluded to. Pollution has no political color. There are always trade-offs. That means there are winners and losers. In the Galamsey narrative, we have a few winners and many, many losers. And existence is a balance between ethics, environment, economics. And the final principle is that no one is safe. If you think you're in Accra and you're safe from what is happening in the, I don't want to mention any particular area, let's say Galamsey areas, you're basically fooling yourself. Because if you don't get it through the food that you're buying from the hinterland, you're taking it in through the air that you're exposed to. So the question is, belling the cat, what does it mean? And the narrative about belling the cat is that you have mice in a house which are being persecuted by a cat. And somebody comes with the idea, some mouse. The mouse probably went to Achimota, that's why I had the idea, that if we hang a bell around the neck of the cat, when the cat is coming, we will hear it and we can run away. So it's now come to be a symbol of corruption. And the last part of that slide says, do you stand up for what is right, or do you let it go and let the practices eat up the entire mice population? And I was talking to one of our organizers, and I said, in fact, belling a cat is not the problem. The problem is that for Galamsey in Ghana, there's more than one cat. And they are not house cats. They are lions, and they do not come alone. They have scavengers of different sizes. So you have the lion that will kill, then the hyenas and the jackals will come in, and even the insects will also come. Then you also have parasites, those who are living off Galamsey. And those parasites, you have both external, like ticks, and you have internal, like protozoans and worms. So it is actually a very difficult issue to deal with, because Galamsey is a whole ecosystem with its own value chain. There are millions of people who are living off this activity that is destroying Ghana. So it is what we call a wicked problem. This is a concept in ecology and development where the problem is so complicated that by trying to fix one part, another part worse. And the only way you can fix a wicked problem is if you have a deep understanding of all the stakeholders and what they do. Research, research, research. We need to understand, and it's not just the normal research that we used to do in the old days. It's research involving the local communities. It is research that involves the people who are benefiting and the people who are losing. I've seen many comments that we should shoot to kill. And I'm saying shoot to kill is not an option. It is not an option. You do not remove part of your human capital by killing them. It doesn't make sense. So, I said this is an issue of values and honor. And I went to this poem, which I'm sure the students here know, The Second Coming by Yeats. It says, turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. I won't go forward, but my take on this, why things have fallen apart in Ghana. We lack order in our pursuit of passion. We have deviated from the core values of those who founded this great nation of ours. We have deviated from the true definition of success, where success is measured in material possessions, things that we cannot take away with us. We have created poor role models for our youth. There's a lack of accountability for our actions, and impunity of the powerful is now a social norm. And I won't go into this because of time, but I want to throw a question out to the group. So I'm going to pose the question. What word do we associate with Ghana now? And the examples, the Swiss punctuality, German technology, Bhutan, happiness, spirituality, the French cuisine. So if I ask you now, say Ghana, what word comes to your head straight away? So please give me some words. Wahala, corruption. What else? Hey, young people, what comes to your mind when you say it? Age. Well, that I would say was in the time when I was your age, when we were welcoming society. But what are the current Ghanaian values? Luckily for me, I came across this piece of research by Osei Tutu in 2023. What you have in the blue is those, values that scored above 100, the top 6. I've taken religion out. And if you look at the ones in bold, money, foreigners, politics, if you look at those values which are in the bottom of the table, obedience, pride for country, truth, generosity, patience, gratitude, we have changed completely as a nation. Galamsey is also political. And there's something you cannot read, but the reference is there that I can leave. But in our constitution, it says that all public lands in Ghana shall be vested in the president on behalf of and in trust for the people of Ghana. For a long time, I had been reading this differently, that all lands, but there's a difference between public land and land. So a forest reserve is public land. It has been set aside for a purpose. My backyard is not public land, it's my private land. But I still cannot do anything I like on that land. So when we say the president has the power, in fact, he doesn't have the power. He can empower, he can create an environment for things to be done. But he cannot go onto somebody's legally assigned concession and instruct what to do there. Galamsey has led to so many protests and petitions. Again, you cannot read this, but the first column of words there are unions and associations. Then you have religious bodies. Then there are media. Then there's some political. Then you have NGOs and MDAs and so forth. I asked somebody from GBC to compile, and when she got to around 40 plus, I said, it's okay. It cannot fit on the slide again. So many petitions, but what have they done? What real difference have they made? So I said, that is looking back. Let us look forward. So I did a comparison of the manifestos of the dominant parties, their 2024 manifestos, and I found that there's actually a lot of similarity in the sort of things that they want to do in terms of preventing the mining of gold in cocoa farms, or creating a gold board or minerals development bank, or strengthening capacity at the district level to manage stopping mining in water bodies and forest reserves. There's a lot of commonality in it. And all of these things are good. But as you know, Ghana is one of the best countries in the world when it comes to writing laws, proclamations, decrees, acts, LIs, and whatever. As for the writing, we can write. But can we act? That is the problem. So that basically gives us the background of where you're coming from. Now, if you go to the scope of the problem, that is the Galamsey 101. Illegal mining actually drives the 3 grand challenges facing the world. That is environmental pollution, climate change, and biodiversity loss. And it affects every single one of the Sustainable Development Goals. This diagram of the Sustainable Development Goals is also known as the wedding cake. And you find that the bottom of that cake, what supports everything, is based on the biosphere. It is the land and the water which supports everything. So why on earth would we be destroying something that supports us in such an important way? Part of the reason is Galamsey is not a simple thing. It is very complex. Again, I found a nice paper by Mate 2020 et al. And it shows all the different aspects. So you have the chamfan, you have the dry wash, you have washing board, underground, washing plant, so many different aspects of it. We have now something which has come recently. Not in local, they call it quen quen. Quen quen is the metal detector. And you can see that in the slide, the guy, what he's holding, it looks like a spade. These people can come to your oil palm plantation and dig everywhere. The next morning when you come, the trees are just standing like that, because they're using the metal detector to find out where the gold is. The hand above, which you can see is discolored, is the result of a small cut on that person's hand, and he had been handling mercury. So he has topical, is it topical? I'm not a medic, but it's topical. Mercury poisoning of the hand. And it's just a small cut. So you can imagine you're working with stones and gravel. Then you go and work with mercury. Then you end up like this. As for the impact on water, we've all seen it. The picture in the middle there is the Birim in 2006. I did a project there, so I took that photograph myself. The picture on the other side is the Birim in 2022. And the map shows all the areas, all the non-blue areas are places where they have rivers that are contaminated. So we can say that more than 60% of Ghana's water bodies are polluted now. And that's according to the Water Resource Commission in 2017. Things have not got better since then. And I could spend 5 hours talking about the water chemistry and this, and how it has changed over the past 30 years or so. But let's just take some general thoughts on it. So, something that doesn't occur to many people is that as the sediment is moving out, it goes to the sea. So effectively, we are losing Ghana's land area. Ghana as a nation is disappearing because of Galamsey, being washed out to sea. Now again, I did a calculation. Using the Bia, the Tano, and Cobra and Pra, about 2 million tons of Ghana's soil goes to the sea. The total is equivalent to more than 200,000 12-ton tipper trucks each year, every year. What does that look like? If you had a line of tipper trucks from Boku to Accra, you need 2 lanes to have that number of trucks. Just imagine them all coming out, all dumping Ghana into the sea to be washed where? It ends up at the Niger Delta. We are losing Ghana to build Nigeria. The other aspect is that we do not have a mercury mine in Ghana. We don't have cinnabar. We don't have the raw material that is used for mercury. Meanwhile, we are using 5 tons, 5,000 kilos of mercury every year. Where does it come from? How does it get into the country? Where's the supply route? Because the large mines now have moved away from mercury. They use different techniques. who supplies the mercury. It's one of those parasites or scavengers that are benefiting from our problems. So, we have a special case when it comes to potable water. What the figures there represent the levels that Ghana Standards Authority says is safe. So you find that the first one, turbidity, for potable water, that is not portable, it's potable. We have 5. Ghana Water Company reported their raw water of 14,000 and then said things have improved. They had improved to what? 9,000. 5 and 9,000, there's a slight gap. Yeah. Now, if you look at mercury, which is in bold and red, it's the maximum allowed is 0.001 milligrams per liter. What does that mean? It's the equivalent of having 1 cube of sugar in a poly tank, Rambo 4000. That is what it represents. 1 cube of sugar in that huge tank, which is 2.1 meters tall and 1.68 in diameter. So basically, from the ground to my height and about this wide, 1 cube of sugar. So you don't need much to exceed what is safe. Now, this has huge implications on the price of treating water. Now, again, these are figures from 2022. It costs, I use the US water treatment that increased from $655 US per day to $7,500 per day. So the exchange rate is now different. That's why I'm not using the C. To multiply by the current exchange rate to appreciate how much it's costing Ghana Water Company. Meanwhile, PURC has fixed their price. So basically, they're running at a loss. In fact, it's better if they shut down, because every day they operate, they're losing money. But we take water as a right. And if they increase the price of water to the price it costs them to produce, which they should, and it shouldn't be nationwide, it should be differential according to the treatment plant in the catchment. So we in Accra, we get water from Pong, which is needs very little treatment. We also get from Weja, the Densu, which needs a lot more treatment. But it's nothing like what you have at Birim. So if the people in the Birim were paying 10 to 20 times as much for their water, one, there'll be uproar, but I think maybe they'll think again in controlling who is benefiting from their problems. Now, once the water quality, sorry, I'm talking a lot about water because that's my area. You lose your biodiversity. So we have various fish, like the first fish, Cynodontis, which likes running water. We have freshwater crabs. We have freshwater prawns. They're all dead, all gone. And those are the things that we see and say, oh, this is terrible. But we're also losing the dragonflies, both those that we see and those in the water. One dragonfly can eat hundreds of mosquitoes in a day. The adults flying, but also the larvae in the water. So if you create a situation where dragonflies cannot survive, but mosquitoes can, why can mosquitoes survive in polluted water? What do they have that a dragonfly will not have? Young people. They have a siphon. They can come to the surface and take air and then go down. But a dragonfly larvae can't do that. So the dragonflies, and the mosquitoes proliferate. So we have malaria. We have days away from school. We have lost days at work. So it takes me to the next point, which is the cascading impact on local communities. So if you start with Galamsey, it impacts land, it impacts the water, it impacts the air, it impacts the communities. We don't have time, so I won't do a deep dive. I'll just take one. Impact. You have corruption, because people pay for other people to look the other way. You have children out of school. Prostitution. Teenage. Because it's dangerous, you have conflict and small arms, and even now serious arms, machine guns. And I have been to a site where the gentleman, for want of a better word, he could be from Cadbury House, but I asked, you know what you're doing is bad. It's bad for the environment. And he said, yes, he knows, but he doesn't have any other skill that he can use. And he said, Master, if I stop this work, the only work I can do is armed robbery. And he already has the tools. Because every one of these camps, they have machine guns, they have shotguns. So I'm thinking in my mind, maybe let the Galamsey stay and these people can stay in the bush and leave us alone. But the point is that you find that a lot of things end up in death or illness. And if you look at one of the side effects, the picture is actually from a BBC report where you have half-caste Chinese Ghanaians. The fathers have made money and they've gone back to China. They have not taken their baggage with them. These are young people growing up in a community where already they're marginalized. Their mental health issues. But if you look at the narrative on the other side, you find that there are different things happening. And before, I was having a discussion, and they said in the old days, when you have small-scale mining, they'll use a pickaxe, a pan, and it's just there. Now they're not doing that. The scale, the intensity, the speed. By the time somebody has reported a company that, oh, the people are in the forest reserve doing something, by the time they've mobilized, they've got the message already and they're vanished. They are using sophisticated means of communication. And we are still depending on a network not functioning. So we have created a landscape that is full of risk. And that risk has its own negative feedback mechanism. So it's bad and becomes worse, becomes even more bad, and so forth and so on. So if you look at some of the impact, this is another study this year, congenital defects, neural tube defects, heart defects. You have in the Pra, Kenyasi region, levels of heavy metals which are beyond what is required. Yam, levels of cyanide in yam, 4 times the recommended maximum. Now we export yam. And it has happened in the past with smoked fish, where we had 200 people exporting, companies, individuals exporting smoked fish to the European Union. One of my master's students did some work about 20 years ago on that. And they ended up with only 2. because none of the other 198 could satisfy the EU regulations of residue or pesticide. Our cocoa is already, we are down from over 1 million tons. Now I think this year is 430,000 tons, less than half of what we produce, because the area is gone. We have climate change going on. We have people who have sold their cocoa farms to people to do Galamsey. A cocoa farm can give you something for at least 30, 40 years if you're lucky. Galamsey is once. So, now we go to some solutions. So I want to revisit why we are here. The regulatory frameworks, how to involve local communities, the role of influential figures, and how concerted effort can change. So I say the solution is in Ghana, and I'll explain. My first is good governance, political will. We have 3 branches of government. That making laws, the one that carries out laws, and another that evaluates laws. And I will put it to you, I know there are many learned friends in this room, that all of these are not working properly. So when you look at that intersection between openness, transparency, and integrity, with performance, with effective collaboration that will create good governance, none of it is working properly. We also need to do some peer-to-peer learning, because Ghana is not alone facing this problem. Many countries have been through what we are going through now. Colombia, Ecuador, you can see there are burning excavators in Ecuador. Even Kenya. So why don't we just go see how these countries have solved the problem and learn from them from a practical viewpoint. This is not academic, it's not theory. They had the problem, they've managed to solve it. And it's not just these countries. I was in a meeting last week in Germany with people from Latin America and Southeast Asia. They all had faced problems of illegal mining. And some have overcome. Some are behind us. They're now moving in our same direction. Let us learn from each other. But the problem is that we learned from, or we have used the legacy. And as I said here, you have the Gold Mining Products Protection Ordinance of 1909 on goldsmithing. Now that ordinance was to prevent local goldsmiths getting access to gold, and so forth and so on. So these are all in the 1930s. And then there was an interesting paper by Stone in 1930, Observations on the Mining Laws of the British Empire. And he makes a statement. The wealth that comes from her mines, that is British Empire, that is all of us, comes but once. Follies of user destroy the source. Once lost, these riches cannot be replaced. It is a dwindling asset. And because everybody wants to get some, remember Galamsey means gather and sell. Nobody wants to be left out. So we're all gathering as fast as we can without thinking of the consequences of the future. But basically, the problem has been there for 100 years. Now, this is the one I like, harnessing traditional authority, because I believe that the power of our chiefs is so important. This is the Otumfu Center for Traditional Leadership at the University of Professional Studies, Accra. And in our constitution, we recognize the importance of chiefs. But unfortunately, the respect for our chiefs is changing because there are some formal government structures, but there are too many chieftaincy disputes and too many issues around traditional property rights. I know of a case which has been at Menshad now, is 18 years, about who should be the chief and who should not be the chief, and who should be the Queen Mother, because the Queen Mother has installed somebody on the wrong line. It is going down. But then we have hope, because as you know, we have levels of chiefs, all the way up to the kings. And in this year, Otumfuo distilled 3 chiefs. We also had of excavators. We also had chiefs being made to sign an undertaking that they will not allow illegal mining in their area. So the chiefs are standing up to what they are supposed to do, being the custodians of the land. They are supposed to look after the land. As for the public land, that's for the president. But the stool lands, that is for them to manage. Now, the real problem is we have poverty, and poverty is the driver. We have poverty alleviation, but these just do basic needs. But if somebody can be public and say that she makes $700 million a year from gold and mining, the first thing that came into my mind, how much tax does she pay? And she gave the figures, how much she gets a month and so forth. And this is public record. It's out on the net. During an interview, she said it. I make 700 million. So how can you tell somebody who is making maybe $600 a month, which is more than my salary, that he should stop? The fact that he may die tomorrow is a different matter. But we need to alleviate the poverty. The next solution is nature-based. We have to use nature to try and fix some of these things. And we have not tapped our nature in this country. The reason is that we haven't done the research. There's 2 graphs or 2 diagrams. On the one side, it is your left side, you have from data going to understanding and from data going to connectedness. So you move from data to information, that is understanding relations. From information you go to knowledge, understanding the patterns. And from knowledge we go to wisdom, understanding the principles. Where are we on this scale? We don't even have the data. So we haven't even got onto this graph heading towards wisdom. On the other side, you see the need of how to integrate different understandings. So you go from science to practice. And if you want to have true science meaningful to the people, we need to be integrative. We need transdisciplinary science. Science that involves the local stakeholders, that is meaningful to them. But nature-based solutions is more than tree planting. Now, in Brazil, they have been doing some work with the balsa tree. It seems that they can make an extract from the leaf that can replace mercury to get the gold from the ore. So they are now growing the picture there, Paudu, balsa wood, in plantations, not for the tree itself, which they use for things like wind turbines and so forth, but for the leaf at a certain stage, so you can harvest that and use it to extract gold. I am certain that Ghana has an equivalent. I don't want to mention names here about people who are into organic chemistry and plants and things, but we have one very distinguished old Achimotan here who knows a lot about this. So if they'll give him a nice chunk of money, he can start doing some research as a retirement project. Prof. Yeah, but no. You guide the young people to help. The wisdom is there. So we have these things all around us, but we are not using them. Have we started developing new varieties of trees that can mature faster on these lands that are being reclaimed? I went to one, I think, was it Resolute Mine, when they closed down. We went to their reclamation site. This must be 1996. And they planted rows and rows of teak. So we said, why didn't you plant fruit trees? And they said they did that once, and as soon as the trees got to a certain height, the people cut it for firewood. But the teak, they see it as a plantation, that if it grows, they'll sell it to ECG for, what do you call it? Poles. So, but there are other ways we can do this. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is we need to alter the mindset of the youth. Now, what you see there is actually from a video. The man was trapped by the mud, and they're trying to use an excavator to dig him out. But the man is afraid that the excavator is coming too close to his leg. So he's shouting. In fact, I was showing it to somebody, and the person said he can't watch because it was making him have palpitations, whether the man is going to die or not. Now, the graph there, the pie chart, shows how people die. Suffocation, burning, entrapment. And this is, remember, this is only what is reported. A lot of these things are not reported. The people die in the pit, and they're gone. A lot of the people doing the work are not even from Ghana. They're from Burkina Faso, Mali, Cameroon, Ivory Coast. They all come to Ghana because there's no regulation. When they die, they're not going to send a message that, oh, your brother came here and he's under that pit. We want the body. Okay, you need to remove 20 tons of soil before you can get him. So we have a situation where the youth have to tell the older people that you have borrowed Ghana from us. So we have borrowed Ghana from you, and what we are going to leave you to inherit is destruction. Some of the young people think that they cannot die. I was told that a man made a lot of money one week from illegal mining. So when he was coming from the camp to the town, he hired 3 taxis. He put his left shoe in the first taxi, sat in the middle taxi, and his right shoe in the last taxi, and he was going in convoy because he's found some nuggets. Shows that he's made it. Exposure to these mining chemicals have long-term consequences. Dropping out of school to pursue illegal mining, you're mortgaging your future. But how do we get people who are struggling in the rural setting to do this? And my answer is that you have to catch them young. This is a project we did some 12 years ago looking at coastal degradation, dealing with young people to get their ideas of how to manage the environment. I'm telling you, these children aged between, let's say, 7 and 16 came up with environmental management plans EPA would have paid consultants thousands of dollars to create. And more than that, they created a means of dissemination to their peers on how to explain why it is important. So we need to promote a growth mindset. They should not be satisfied with how things are going on in their villages. We need to challenge the youth. One of the biggest problems I have with the way we've been handling Galamsey is the burning of excavators and chamfans in the bush, releasing all the hydrocarbon pollution. I know there are issues and problems. When they hear that people are coming, they can't take the excavator. They remove the control board so it cannot move. Can we not find a way to circumvent that? Can we not use the power plant, because it's a power plant, for hospitals as a genset, as pumping machine for irrigation, power for our factories that are supposed to be in the districts? Because these are machines, this is energy, and we are burning them. The last is, for the youth, is let us use social media. So these are two people. The lady, I believe, is called Sister Debbie or something, and she is an advocate for plastic, control of plastic. The gentleman is Ochami Kwame, and he is a musician, and he's spearheading climate change. In fact, he goes around with a climate clock, which counts down how we are going to meet the 2 degree limit. We need to influence the young people by using religion. And recently, SDA Church came out with this statement that they can't baptize their people again because the water is so filthy. And remember, when we talked about Ghanaian values, religion was at the top, standing by itself. And there are many references on the importance of water. I think what I looked at, there are at least 22 when they talk about the sanctity of water and the need to keep it clean. So why can't we lever on this? So when I say the solution is in Ghana, I mean Ghana. The G is for good governance. The H is harnessing traditional authority. The A is alleviating poverty. The N is nature-based solutions. And the A is altering the mindset. If we follow this, I think we can do something. So my takeaway points, and this will bring me to the end, I hope, yes, almost, is that Galamsey is a mental problem, but it's not limited to Ghana. It's a human problem driven by greed. To fix something is always more expensive than to spoil it. Spoiling can take an instant. Fixing, you will never get it the same. Those of our older generation whose daughter has taken the car and gone to hit somebody's car with it, the car was fine. In 2 seconds, bah! They'll now toss you up and down doing welding and this thing, but it will never be the same car. So you might as well give it to her anyway. This is taken from, I think the man, his name is paraphrased from, is it Kofi Kinata? Say full-time problems cannot be dealt with by part-time solutions. I think he said a full-time devil cannot be handled by a part-time Christian. Yes. But we cannot do this off and on. There's no substitute for data from research carried out, co-designed and co-developed with communities. And the last point is that we need evidence-based policies for long-lasting solutions which are owned by the people. We have to stop the knee-jerk. Oh, something has happened, then we all rush there and do something. Then 1 week later we forgot it. Then we rush there. Let us sit down and plan. And Mr. Moderator, I think I'm still on time. My last slide is a very special slide because I would like to acknowledge my science teachers, 1970 to 77, Mrs. Anna Mate, Flora Mensah, Larry Cobson, and there is his car, Dimasido, Mr. Baku Riado, yeah. Mr. Golby, I don't know, do you remember Mr. Golby, a very short man with big red lips and a beard, and Mrs. Parker Benning, who taught mathematics. Without them, we will not be where we are now. So thank you very much for your attention.
I think he deserves a lot of applause for that. Before I invite our moderator up and then go into the panel discussion, on the back of that very profound presentation by Accra Prof. Gordon, I think we should all just spend 1 minute giving ourselves context of why what we do today, what we are doing today in this conversation is critical. And let me ask the Achimota School Choir to lead us in providing this context. So, Accra's Friends of Achimota, Ghanaians, if you will, please rise with me and let us together sing Yengara Asasini. This is our land. What we do or don't do affects us. 2 stanzas.
Jana na na num shwe gwinya de to o mayen edume ne wonsonso se ye be ye biatia so nim dia tra so kutu krani nya pese mi ku minya edie bra mu de mama ya sasim do atum se be ye yo serinye yo na ose bra netre sebeye yo serinye yo na ose amanfo bra netre.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Sebe yo, say nye yo. Yembra nebeche. And with that, let me welcome our moderator for today, Accra Kafui Day. Kafui.
Thank you, OA President Accra Joel Nete. Thank you so much. And our keynote speaker has taken his seat. And so I will also take my seat and invite our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to introduce our first panelist up on the stage. He is an extraordinary leader whose impact spans governance, law, and national service, a respected member of the Central Regional House of Chiefs, and president of the Asin Orenchi Traditional Council. He has devoted his life to advancing his community and his country. He's a barrister at law and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Ghana, a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Administrators and Management Consultants, and has served as chairman of many distinguished boards. It is with great anticipation and respect that we welcome one of our panelists, His Majesty Ehunabobrim Pra Agensam VI. The next panelist that I have the pleasure of bringing up on the stage is a force for nature, a champion of clean air, green spaces, and peaceful surroundings. She has led efforts to protect Ghana's forests, fought to preserve cherished green areas, and spearheaded campaigns against noise pollution, inspiring others to join the cause for a serene environment. With a deep commitment to the environment that has earned her international recognition as a climate change hero. Her journey has spanned decades, from founding environmental groups to receiving honors such as the Brent Citizenship Award and election as a Fellow of the Royal Society of Arts. Driven by a passion to protect Ghana's natural heritage, she's a lawyer and tireless advocate for a sustainable future. Please join me in welcoming Awila Sewa. Ladies and gentlemen, we have two more panelists to invite onto the stage. I want to introduce a dynamic leader with a deep passion for transforming the artisanal small-scale mining industry. He brings over 12 years of expertise in mining management, law, and conflict resolution. As CEO and co-founder of Transico Minerals and Mining Limited and founder of Gold God Entertainment Limited, he's been instrumental in advancing the sector. Additionally, he serves as the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners, advocating for the rights and growth of licensed miners. Please welcome Godwin Amar. Last, but definitely not the least, ladies and gentlemen, our fourth panelist is seated and ready to join us. He's a relentless advocate for engineering excellence and media integrity, with a commitment to shaping the future of Ghana's industries. Leading the EMIS Chamber of Ghana, he stands at the forefront of the fight against illegal mining, passionately advocating for environmental responsibility and media freedoms. His leadership journey spans top roles as Managing Director of Graphic Communications Group Limited, Chief Operating Officer of Multi-TV, and MD of Optimum Media Prime, blending engineering expertise with strategic vision. He is an engineer and a distinguished fellow in multiple professional bodies. He's a visionary pushing the boundaries of Ghana's progress, and he speaks very passionately on that media coalition against Galamsey. Let's welcome Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe. So we are good to go. Just to remind you that there's a WhatsApp number that you can send your messages to 055-339-8483. I'll start with Nana. Nana, when you hear the theme being read out, Ghana's Death by Galamsey, who will bell the cat? What runs through your mind as a traditional leader?
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
I would have answered very quickly and shortly by saying what goes into my head is the lecture that has just been given about who the cat is and who the mouse is. But let me deviate a bit from your question and make an attempt to give my opinion, which I believe is the reason why I'm here. I'm not representing any traditional authorities. I'm here in my own right as a citizen of Ghana to give an opinion of Galamsey. When I had this invitation, I tried very hard to craft my ideas, and I came to the conclusion that if I talk about Galamsey, I will be talking to the converted. Everybody who is here is anti-Galamsey. I'll have to make that assumption. So I tried to look for a solution to the problem. So I will defer to the moderator, and at his own time, when he decides that I should make a contribution towards solution, I will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But I think I'll stay with you, if you may, because as a traditional leader, and you speak for yourself, but as a traditional leader, why have traditional leaders actually failed to take a stronger stance against Galamsey? It's something that beats a lot of people's minds, because I hear on TV and radio, the Chinese don't know where to go, or the foreigners or whoever. They have to go through a traditional authority to get access to land to dig up. So why are the chiefs not pushing back?
To be honest with you, I am not in agreement with you on the fact that chiefs have failed in fighting this Galamsey. There are so many reasons. And I know that some Chinese and some other nationals go to these places, not only see the chiefs. Some citizens in the villages, in the towns, have taken upon themselves to be agents of destruction. And they meet these people, and they themselves have farms. And there are no legal sanction on any chief who gives a land to be farmed, and it is turned into Galamsey. No sanctions whatsoever. That is one. Two, chiefs have not got the sort of powers that you think they have. Let me give you an example, a typical example. When we were being colonized, even the colonizers left the chiefs with more power than our own people who took over. That's true. There was a case that got to Supreme Court of Ghana. Incidentally, as a lawyer, I agree with the decision of the Supreme Court. But listen to me. The case that went to Supreme Court was to determine whether the chief of a community has the right to compel a habitant to come to the palace to answer some charges. You know what the Supreme Court said? The Supreme Court said the chief has no right to compel any habitant, any citizen, or not even citizen, anybody who lived within his jurisdiction to come to the palace to answer any question. He said, the Supreme Court said, even the President of Ghana has no power to compel a citizen to go to Jubilee House. If he thinks the citizen has offended the law, the president should report to the police. As a lawyer, I see the legal argument in this. But as a citizen, I say to myself, it is not everything that must be judged in a legal manner. There are other things in life more than law. Live, let's live. Humanity. Supreme Court could have decided that, if all the palaces refuse to adjudicate on civil cases, the whole judicial system in Ghana will collapse. At least the Supreme Court ought to have known that chiefs are allowed to adjudicate on civil cases. So the Supreme Court could have said, as long as the matter is a civil matter, you are compelled to go and see the chief. In that case, the chief whose land has been given to somebody, Galamsey, could have called him to the palace and said, listen, I don't want to do Galamsey on my land. So please if you're going to continue, put my land, I was going to say down, and leave. Even that the chief cannot do.
Right.
So to say that the chiefs have failed in contributing towards eliminating Galamsey is a bit harsh, to say the least.
Thank you very much, Nana. So we overestimate the powers of the chiefs. That's what I'm reading from Nana. I'll come to you, Madam Sawa and Dr. Achikbe in a while, but let me speak with Mr. Ama. So you are the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners. Do you find that people lump you with the Galamseys and look at you and point fingers at you and say you are destroying the land? Do you get that a lot?
First of all, good evening.
Good evening. Yeah.
I think it happens a lot of because of information gap, as I would say. A lot of people, when you hear Galamsey, what comes to mind is small-scale mining. Small-scale mining is different from Galamsey. But what people see and the equipments that are being used, they think is the same, but it's not the same.
Do the small-scale miners use the excavators as well?
They use excavators. If you watch the Minerals and Mining Act, the definition of small-scale mining in Ghana is one, it should not be more than 25 acres. You should be a Ghanaian, and you should be above the age of 18 and of sane mind. Then you can apply for grounds to mine. And it also gives you the opportunity to use equipment to mine. Those days, we have what we call artisanal mining. If you watch the small-scale mining space, I define it into three. The artisanal mining operations, the semi-mechanized, and then the fully mechanized operation. Where the fully mechanized operation, you have entrepreneurs who are in there. Their investment is quite high. They use highly skilled personnel in their operations, and you see them like the large scale, but just in size. Then you have the semi-mechanized operation where they open their pits and employ a lot of people. Some use boards and others. Then you have those who are doing artisanal. Most of them, they don't even apply for license, and their impact are not that much. They can be farmers. They come during the dry season in groups. They pick, they lose, and get some income.
Are you saying that the only difference between the small-scale miners and the Galamseyers is that the Galamseyers don't have licenses, but
the license is number one, because if you are going through the process of formalization, the legal regime is what gives you the right as a person to mine.
But in theory, you can all have the same kind of equipment.
You have the same kind of equipment.
You use changfangs too?
No. Let me explain. When we talk about changfang, we have what we call the dredgers on the rivers, and they use the engine that is called changfang. So changfang is a brand of an engine, which helps because one is cheaper, is accessible. The association, we did some work around the Western North areas. We have about 125 to 26 shops. These are Chinese shops. Each of them is selling this equipment, about 100. So if you multiply with 120, you could get about thousands of changfangs that are already in the system. So changfang is just a brand that are used for many things. Some use it for irrigation. They can use it with a pump and pump their water in for irrigation. Some use it for vulcanizers, using it. So that engine is multi-purpose. But 90% of these engines are used for dredging. That's why you see them a lot on our river bodies.
Is it legal?
It's illegal. The law does not permit dredging in this country when it comes to. These are the red zones, the water bodies. Then we have a buffer of 100 meters. You don't work closer to highways. So if you see people working in the river body, you see them working closer to highways within the buffers of 100 meters, close to electric pylons and all that. They are all perpetrating illegality. The license that is issued to every small-scale mining is site-specific. You have your coordinates. If you are supposed to work in this room, when you move away from here and you mine elsewhere, you are perpetrating illegality. So anywhere you are working with your license and all that is site-specific. So if you see someone working the river body, it's not a small-scale mining, it's illegal mining. The Minerals and Mining Act, the amendments that were done in the 995, redefine what we call illegal mining. Those days, people look at it as illegal small-scale mining. But we realize that we have large-scale concessions, prospecting, recognizance, and mine leads who assign their licenses for people to mine, especially on prospecting, which they are supposed to prospect and find the gold, whether it makes commercial value for them to apply for the next permit and all that. So you realize that they pass these lands and give it out.
So the large-scale guys are...
Some of the large-scale
Some of them are actually helping.
So that's why the definition, forest reserves are not given to small-scale miners, because the law says the small-scale miners lacks capacity to mine in forest reserves. So all forest reserves the concessions are given to large-scale operators. Before, those days, you have Chirano, Newmont, and all these companies working. Even their tailings, they are not supposed to store them in the
What are tailings?
The waste that you have to. So if you dig, there's a proper regime in place for them to work in those forest reserves. So if you see people working in the forest reserve now, passing the lands out, giving it to Chinese and all that, these are large-scale, some of these large-scale operators who are not working according to the schedules of the permits that have been given. But because we don't understand those operations, everyone says it's a small-scale mining, small-scale mining, small-scale mining. So the redefinition in the amendments really says that illegal mining can be perpetrated, whether on large or small scale.
I'll bring in Dr. Ashebe in a short while, but let me just come to our last one. So, Professor Gordon was right when he said that it's just a complex case. Is the law helping us to find who needs to belt the cat? Because you're listening to definitions, and is the law helping?
Well, for me, what I would say is that you can have laws, but if you're not prepared to enforce the laws, then the laws are just decoration. Our problem is not the absence of laws. Our problem is the enforcement of laws. Let me give you a little story. In Atronsu, in the Western North region, they have a beautiful stream, which was pristine. You know, the color was just like this, Atronsu stream. So they said categorically, we do not want community mining. We don't want any form of mining. We are cocoa farmers, we are farmers, and that's what we want to do. Community mining was being forced down their throats. We took the case to court. So the case is currently in court. Then in August, 2 excavators found their way to the landscape. We contacted the regional minister. He was of no help. Eventually, we contacted national security, and the excavators left, and I thought, thank God. Unfortunately, they came right back. They started the illegal mining, and the stream was turning brown. I went to the regional minister, no help. I contacted the police commander, who was finding it difficult to do anything. In the long run, the illegal miners were arrested for a day, released, and they went right back to polluting the stream. Then on Farmers' Day, 4 of the cocoa farmers, one of them is actually a teacher, another one is an assemblyman, were arrested.
This year's Farmers' Day?
Yes. This, what is 13th? What date was Farmers' Day? Yeah, for allegedly burning an excavator, which was being used to pollute the water body. The police were very quick to arrest them. I called the commander and asked for police bail. He told me that he was on his way to the Farmers' Day, and they were still investigating. By the afternoon, they had taken them to court and had them remanded in custody. So look at this scenario. The persons polluting the landscape are walking free, and those who were trying to do something about it were in police custody. Our lawyers were not able to get to the court in time. The lawyer, they tried to get a lawyer who happened to be there. He tried to get bail for them. They were still remanded in custody until today. We managed to get our lawyer to travel to Atronsu, and they were released today. But not 4 of them, 5 of them, because one community member went to visit them in prison, and he was promptly arrested by the police.
For visiting?
Yes, because the police said he might have been one of those who burnt the excavator.
The visitor went inside?
Yes. So he was also released on bail today. And our lawyer was telling me that he was furious when the prosecutor tried to have them remanded in custody for 2 more weeks, saying that he hadn't completed the investigations and that they were looking for advice from the Attorney General. You've already charged them. You've had them put in remand for 2 weeks, well, not 2 weeks, until today, and you wanted them to be kept in custody for 2 more weeks. All I'm trying to say is that the way we are operating the law is very bad. Now, the reason why people come down on small-scale miners is only because, in many cases, people see small-scale mining as another form of illegal mining. This present case I was talking about, the police commander told me that they had a license, and it was sent to me. It was supposed to be a community license. Now, as Professor Frimpong Boateng has told us, even if you have a license, if you go outside the parameters of your license, what is it? It's illegal mining.
Just back it up a bit for me. What is community mining? How is that different from the other kinds of mining?
You know, we masquerade under so many things. Call it community mining. Just call it anything. The important thing is that we have the large-scale mining. And that one, I think there are only about 10 or so of them. So it's easier to monitor. We don't have a culture of enforcement. So when you are monitoring a few, if you want to do it, you can do it. Now, the small-scale mining, there are thousands of them. There are thousands of them. So if we can't even monitor 10, I don't see how we're going to monitor thousands. Now, with this particular case, I contacted the EPA. Now, the EPA gentleman was telling me that even when you have a community mining license, you can't just go and mine. You're supposed to get something from the EPA. And he was asking me whether they had a document from the EPA. I don't happen to work in the EPA, and I don't issue license. I don't know. So I said, I don't think so. But being in the EPA might be a little easier for you to find out. Till this date, they haven't been able to do that. And this was on the 13th of September. We happen to be in November. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that we may have all the beautiful laws, but we're not able to enforce. So our problem is to do with enforcement. And it's because we are not able to do that or unwilling to do that, that people are asking for a pause in small-scale mining. Only because a lot of distraction is going on, and we are not monitoring. The other thing I'll say is
Mr. Ama will not be happy with that pause.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Ama will not be happy with that pause.
Well, you see, I'm not trying to make people happy. You said before we started that Ghana was what we're all interested in. We are Ghanaians, or even if we are not Ghanaians, we are living here. And I think all of us are interested in the welfare of Ghana. It doesn't matter which political party you belong to. Ghana is where you are. If the forest reserves are gone, the lungs of the country are gone, we are all going to suffer. If our water is poisoned, we are all suffering. And let me say this, when the water is like this, mercury is colorless. It doesn't mean it doesn't contain mercury. Ghana Water has told us that they don't remove mercury from the water. So the fact that the water looks clear doesn't mean it's free of mercury. Another point I'll make with respect to the chiefs, if you look at a place like Jema, the chief is against mining. And he has made sure that there's no mining.
Which area is this?
It's in the western region.
It's called Jema.
So, yeah, Jema.
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 And we have a very good man called Father. Today I'm so tired because of all these things going on. Father Blay, he's been on city and things like that. In fact, we've been trying to have chiefs against Galamsey.
Is he a priest?
Sorry?
Father Blay?
He's a priest.
Okay, all right.
But he's been very instrumental in getting together with a chief, who is a fantastic chief, and ensuring that there's no mining in the area. And in fact, I was told that if you look at an area where there's illegal mining, something has happened. If the chief, the political authority, and the police decide there will be no illegal mining, believe me, there will be no illegal mining.
Those are the bellies of the cats, right?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. But what happens a lot of the time is that there's a break. Either you have the police who are complicit, or you have the chiefs who are complicit, or you have the political authority who are complicit, or all three. And I gave you the example we had, where in Jema there's no mining. In Atronsu, for instance, the chief is in favor of mining, because he's not thinking of tomorrow, he's thinking of today. And I would say that if our ancestors had been as greedy and wicked as this generation is, we wouldn't have come to meet anything.
Prof. Gordon rightly said it's a mental illness, right? What's happening here? Yeah.
It's greed.
It's greed, huh? Thank you so much, Awolasowa. Now, yeah, sure. Thank you. And for those of you who are watching on Channel 1 TV, thank you for your eyeballs. Our WhatsApp number is 055-339-8483. So let me now go to Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe, who has synthesized not only the keynotes, but contributions from Nana, Mr. Ama, and Awolasowa. Dr. Ashigbe, so we have reports upon reports from the media, but very little action on the ground. What's your level of frustration in the attempts to bell this lion, not even a cat?
Well, thank you very much. It's great that we're doing this at this time, because you know what has happened is that Prof mentioned when he got to a particular number, it would not go onto the slides, the number of petitions that we had, the uproar that had come based on the fact that we had got a BDT of water to get to 14,000 NTUs. And all of us appropriately should be angry. And then, you know, so with all that we did, with all the media did, and organized labor also got involved, and government stated that there were some enhanced measures. It is important to go back and look at what it is that has happened. One of the things that was promised was the fact that when Parliament returned on the 15th of October, we're going to have the repeal of that obnoxious law. The law that saw the NDC and the MPP sit in Parliament and decided that they will give the President the power to allow people to go mine in forest reserves, including areas of critical biodiversity areas. And again, look at what the media did. Who were giving those licenses to go into those places? So again, when we mention the fact, the issue of illegal mining, and we attempt to scale it to small scale, to only small scale, we make a grave error. You see, the interesting thing was that Gordon, he doesn't like mentioning names. But me, I'm one of the few who would mention names. Achimota mining. When they were found in the Tanonimre Forest Reserve, the Forestry Commission has done a report that indicates that they were engaged in an illegality. Achimota Mining is not a small-scale mining company. Heritage Imperial were giving a prospecting license. They were also in the Praprama Forest Reserve with about 36 excavators. As any engineer, you know that nobody prospecting would need 36 excavators. I have mentioned that to the Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural. I've mentioned it to everybody. There's been no arrest done. Achimota Mining, nothing has happened.
What can 36 excavators do?
Oh, even one excavator. If you don't go to the farm on a Tuesday, and the excavator gets onto your land, it would eat all of it up. You know? Yeah. So, the interesting thing is that the illegality and the irresponsibility has nothing to do with scale. And that point has to be really made very clearly. So we said that we're going to, when they come back to Parliament, they were going to deal with it. You see what they've been doing? After the two of them put together, passed that obnoxious LI 2462, they came and they were not juggling on where they are going to sit. That's their interest. So, and I think I will not mention a particular point. The firefighters are the arsonists. The people we have put in charge to deal with the issue of Galamsey are themselves the people who are either involved in it, they are either complicit or they are incompetent. So that's the point. And so it is important that all of you sitting here realize the fact that they don't care about us. They do not care about you. And it has nothing to do with poverty alleviation. It has all to do with greed. Are you going to tell me that somebody who's getting 700 million, it's poverty? One of the first communities we went to when we started this fight against Galamsey is a community in Manso Kwanta. Manso Kwanta, I think previously was the highest cocoa district with highest cocoa. When we went there in 2017, my driver had gone somewhere to go and buy fufu. Manso Kwanta, there was no fufu for 10 cedis. They will not cut 10 cedis for fufu. Because at that point, you know, so it's not about the fact that this is a community that was already engaged in cocoa farming. So it's an element of greed. And the greed, it comes all the way from the top. So when they see that the MPP Ashanti Regional Chairperson is involved in an illegality that the president mentions and nothing happens to him, how are you expecting those people in their communities to stop doing anything? So that's one. Look at the issues around the state of emergency. Gordon will tell you that when the Operation Halt, that additional 100-member facade that was sent into those communities, that stopped operation after barely 2 weeks. When they left the communities, the Chamfan operators went back there. He had to take their people to go and arrest them and ask him what happened. When they took the people to the police were quick. You see, Awola's people, they won't grant them bail. They want to quickly grant them bail. It had to take a lot of force for them to even take them to court to prosecute them. So the issues that they need to deal with, they are not dealing with them. Now you talk about the fact that they said there are 14 or so specialized courts. And then the AG will tell us that some 800 cases. Who are the 800 people who are being prosecuted? Have you seen Achimota Mining in there? Have you seen Heritage Imperial's people there? No. Again, we're using the spider web principle. It catches the small flies, but the big flies break it and get away with it. Exactly. You see, so the challenge is the fact that you, the middle class, you are too quiet. You are either complicit or you are incompetent. You have surrendered the space and you will not fight. There's a picture of a child that was born with 4 legs, 2 hands.
I didn't want to show it.
Without genitalia, when that baby died and they did the postmortem, the bone marrow was the level of toxicity in the bone marrow. In 2017, the Water Research Institute, when we did a camp, they had gone into one of these communities. They bought bread by the side of the road. When they tested the bread, the level of toxicity. So this problem that we're talking about, it's a problem that concerns you and I. But all of you, some of you will call and say, but you know there's elections coming up. Why are you talking about this? So we've sacrificed governance for just elections. And we are going with it. So our frustration is the fact that nothing is happening. And that's the reason why I'm happy that we're doing this today. So that we can call on all of us today that we need to go back. The question that Kafi, you are asking, we need to go back and ask the president. We need to ask the government, that the committee that has been formed, what are you doing with all the things that you said you're going to do? Why is it that when Ghana Water wanted to come and hoodwink us with that ability of water that had moved from 14,000 to 9,000 units, which is so far away from 5,000 NTUs? Five NTUs, they wanted to celebrate it. What's happening? So currently we are writing to Ghana Water. We are asking them to tell us the level of trace metals and heavy metals in all waters that they are treating everywhere. They claim that they've sent the water samples to water research. We wrote also to FDA. They have not responded. We've written to Ghana Standard Authority. They say they are not the regulators. We should go and talk to the regulators.
Nobody wants to bail the cat.
You see?
Nobody wants to bail the cat.
Yes. These are the people who should be bailing the cat, who are all running away from bailing the cat. So, and I think, Prof. Gordon, the point you make about the fact that we should start letting everybody pay for how much of their water that is being treated, I think it's a very good point. Because all of you know that at the last major PRC review that was done, you are all paying an additional 1% because of Galamsey. Do you also know that they've stopped using aluminum sulfate, alum, in doing the coagulation? And you know what they're using? They're using a chemical that is used in treating wastewater to treat the water that you're drinking. Yep. The polymer.
More expensive.
It's very, very expensive. Yep. So the challenge we're dealing with is not something that you sit and think that it's somebody else's problem. It is your problem. The level of spontaneous abortions that are happening in some of these communities, grave. Renal diseases, very grave. And the interesting thing is that, again, Prof showed it, because of the promiscuity that's happening there, the level of HIV in these communities are very high. Wait till one of these HIV patients has a renal disease and they go and put him on a dialysis machine, and you should be the next to go onto it.
Breathtaking stuff from Dr. Kenneth Achigbe. In case you just joined us, it's a conversation on Ghana's death by Galamsey. Who will bail the cat? It's live on Channel 1 television. And with all these thoughts, I'm sure you also have thoughts bubbling in your heads. We're going to take the microphone now to the audience. So we have microphones, and yes, so just take the mic, mention who you are, and let's keep it brief, whether it's a question or a suggestion or a comment.
Okay. My name is Shalabin Schroeder from the Federation of Ghana Goldsmith and Jewelers Association. Prof make in his submission, he made mention of mercury, that we are not mining mercury in Ghana. And how do we have about 5 tons of mercury in Ghana? Now, from our investigation we make, there's no law that make mercury illegal. Maybe if they can explain it to me. There's no law that shows that mercury is illegal. And anyway, who controls the importation of mercury? Is it EPA or MISO?
Facility Pro Management Services Limited, the most outstanding facility management company in Africa. We have over 12 years experience in professional facility management services, such as cleaning, fumigation, and pest control to landscaping, post-construction cleanings, and electronic security installations. With highly trained personnel, exceptional customer service, and operations in all 16 regions of Ghana, we offer you value for money always. Facility Pro, trusted by top brands like Scania West Africa, Orca Deco, Robert Bosch Ghana, National Communications Authority, First National Bank, Consolidated Bank Ghana, Zenith Bank, Brain Hill International School, Villac International School, just to mention a few. Let us maintain the value of your property. Facility Pro, maintaining the value of your property.